We'll see. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 16 fantasy coverage. I'm your host, Jim Stella, in studio with J Dash and Big Easy. It is the championship round in most leagues. Easy, you are actually in the spread championship game.
It's not easy.
It's not easy being easy. I'm in the championship game in the league that matters because there is boxes of ZD on the line.
Well, Easy going up against another spread member, JK47.
We're still missing them, though, so if you guys find them, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread.
I believe that's the 1 and 2 seeds of that league, to be honest.
Yeah.
In
That's
the
it. It's
championship
1 versus
matchup.
3 in the other one.
To tell you the truth, that really doesn't happen too much.
Pays to be a top seed, baby. What do we got, Dash? Waiver claims?
Yes, we're going with
Waivers.
waiver claims. Easy, do you need a quarterback this week?
No, I'm going to let Blake Bortles just do what he does.
Pretty sure since week 8, Bortles is leading the league in passing touchdowns.
Yeah, he's a beast. I would go with him as well. But if you are looking for a quarterback, maybe Kirk Cousins. He's available in about 75% of the leagues. He's had back-to-back 300-yard games now over the past 2 weeks at Chicago and versus Buffalo. He's thrown for at least 1 touchdown every game this season, but he's been much better at home this year. 6 of his 22 touchdowns came on the road. Now, the problem is he goes into Philadelphia this week, so it is a road game. On the upside, they stink, so their pass defense is bad, and he just showed against Chicago 2 weeks ago he can get it done on the road as well. So, I think he's a good play this week at Philadelphia.
That's a decent play.
Kirk Cousins. We were at a party last weekend, and we had a guy who kept telling us Kirk Cousins is legit. I told him he was garbage, and then he went out and blew up, so don't I look like the fool? I still think he's garbage.
Before last week?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was a home game for him, and he's been playing well at home pretty much all season. Like I said, 16 touchdowns at home now through 8 home games. His final 2 games are on the road. All right, let's get in the running backs. You do need a running back, right, Easy?
Yeah,
I need a running back, too.
One.
Brutal.
I don't know,
Shady
but I've
McCoy.
never heard of this dude, though, so I'm not that hardcore.
Well, James White from New England.
Oh, that's Steve Urkel's brother.
Well, look, he's been doing it big over the last 3 weeks. He has 21 receptions for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns over the last 3 games. He has 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games, 3 of those receiving and 2 rushing, and he has double digits in 4 of the last 5 games. The only game he didn't do it was at Denver, and he's still available in about half the leagues. He's one of my top running back ads this week, to tell you the truth, along with the other running back in this game in Bilal Powell. He's actually available in about 80% of the leagues. He has double-digit fantasy performances in 4 of his last 5 games since returning from a 4-game absence. He has no more than 6 carries in any of those games. But look, 27 receptions on 37 targets and 2 touchdowns in the passing game in that 5-game span. And he has 20 receptions with 25 targets over the last 3 games. He scored a TD each of the past 3 weeks, one of those being on the ground. They go up against New England this week. Like I was saying, these 2 running backs are going to be in this game. I like both these running backs. I think they should be the top added running backs over Christian Michael.
Well, I'm picking up Bilal Powell because you just told me to, and I'm going to insert him into my lineup because Shady McCoy went down. So if I lose, it's on you.
Me.
That's it.
Yeah.
What about James White? Is he out there?
I don't know.
I'd go try to add both of them, to tell you the truth, man.
I don't know.
We're going to find out.
Well, you don't have to play them both.
Play them all.
Well, why add 2 people if it's the last game?
I guess in your case it is the last game. It's not the last game for everybody, but why not?
Right.
Pick them up now and see what happens throughout the week.
Pick Bilal Powell.
Blah!
So what about Christian Michael? That dude's garbage anyway.
Well, last week he had 16 carries for 84 yards. They actually signed him in the middle of the week. It was going to be Bryce Brown to lead the backfield after they cut that DeJuan Harris. But Christian Michael ended up leading the backfield in carries and yardage, 84 yards on the ground. He didn't do much outside of that, so he didn't have a big week or anything. But he goes up against St. Louis this week. They haven't been very good on defense as of late. They actually led up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs now this season. But Pete Carroll said they're going to still use a committee going forward with Michael and Brown and Jackson as the third down back. But I'd have to say Michael's the guy that's going to be getting the most carries in this game.
I'm trying to claim Woodhead, Powell, and Christian Michael. Who should I play?
Woodhead, Powell, and Christian Michael. Well, I would go with Powell over Michael, and I would probably play Woodhead, man, because he blew up Oakland earlier this season, I think, for 30 or more points, something like that, correct? And Melvin Gordon's hurt right now. It's going to be Danny Woodhead and another guy we're going to talk about here in a minute in Donald Brown. Remember this guy. He is still playing football.
Again, if I lose, it's all on you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
What if you win?
Then
is that all on me? Do I get your
we're going to have a
ZD?
big celebration. I'm going to use my ZD to celebrate with you, but you don't get it. I'm going to make a big-ass thing of rigatoni. It's going to make you feel special.
What about you, Easy? Are you going to pick up Bilal Powell and play him? It's actually Bilal Powell.
Blah!
No, it's not Bilal. It's Bilal.
Bilal Powell.
I'm going to look at him. I don't know. I just might let Darren Sproles get the start in a championship game.
Just because you love him
That's
so
tough
much.
there, man.
Hey, if he gives me more than 4 points, it'll be better than Chris Ivory last week.
Well, I would definitely play Powell over Ivory for sure, especially in this game where New England, they do a very good job at stopping running backs. I think only 1 or 2 running backs this season have 100 yards rushing on them, and that's
so then
Ivory's
James
forte.
White's the play then.
No, Bilal Powell in the passing game is the play.
What I love is Easy's in the championship
Well, James
game.
White too. Don't get me wrong, man. Sorry.
After he dropped Forte in the middle of the year, and Dash, you came in to studio freaking out, saying Easy ruined the whole league. Everything's in shambles. Screw this. It's garbage. Easy drops
I don't know if
Forte,
I said that much, but
and then he
along those
rides it
lines.
right to a championship. You guys had a good argument for a while that day. I had a good laugh.
Yeah,
and-
Forte. He did.
Well, would you not like
I don't need
Forte
him.
right now?
Well, what I hope happens
Didn't
is
need him.
Easy wins by 1 point, but Forte blows up for like 40, so that if he would have had him, he would have won easily. But I just want to see him make fun of you, and then you get mad and yell at him, because then it won't be me getting yelled at.
I'll have to find out who I picked up when I dropped him. He's probably my pro.
He's your
I probably,
star.
I probably
You
picked
picked
up
up Blake
David. I
Bortles.
probably picked up David Johnson when I dropped him. To be honest.
We have a handful of other running backs here. How about Rashad Jennings from the New York Giants? He's still available in about 45% of the leagues. Last week, he had 107 yards. That was a season high versus a very good defense in Carolina. And look, over the past 2 games, he actually has 38 carries. He had 22 carries 2 weeks ago at Miami for 81 yards. Added 2 receptions for 21 yards as well. So it is a tough matchup at Minnesota, but really they haven't been playing as well defensively recently as well. So it's not as bad as it looks. On the season, they've let up the 7th fewest points to running backs, but actually as of late they've been a little bit worse than that. So Rashad Jennings isn't a terrible play in a deeper league as a flex option or something like that.
Yeah, you'd have to be in a deep, deep league to be playing this dude, like 60 teams deep.
Well, I don't know, man. He did it big over the past 2 weeks. 100
Ah.
yards last week, 38 carries. Just think about it. If you
Nope.
need a running back right now, maybe Bilal Powell ain't out there, or James White possibly isn't out there for a lot of people. Rashad Jennings, man, a guy that has averaged almost 20 carries over the past 2 games, you could just go pick up. That's not too bad.
It's scary when you're this deep in the playoffs to play somebody just based on a matchup.
How about Cameron ArtisPayne in this matchup going up against the Atlanta Falcons? They led up the 4th most fantasy points this season. Last week, he had 14 carries for 59 yards, 2 receptions for 34 yards against the Giants. Mike Tolbert actually started in that game, and Fozzie Whitaker was expected to play a bigger role, but Cameron ArtisPayne actually came out and got the most touches. What's up?
Fozzie.
I had Cameron
That dude-
Artis-Payne, but I didn't play him. Played West
Well, it looks
instead.
like this
I wouldn't
week
be
they
playing.
are going to start Cameron ArtisPayne.
Why?
Because
He's a
he got
beast.
the most carries last week, and he looked better than any running back they got out there with Jonathan Stewart injured.
We know he's out. We know Johnny Stewart's still out then.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to miss the game. And like I said, Atlanta, they're not very good against the run. So Cameron ArtisPayne isn't a terrible play either. I still rather go with one of those guys since they're available in your league.
Yeah.
Bilal Powell, James White, whoever.
Hmm.
Is White even out there?
Yeah, you know what? James White is available because the only other person out there is JK 47 to pick
He's
him up.
missing.
And
Right.
we haven't heard or spoken of him. We don't even know if he's looking at his lineup.
Well, look,
I may be able to take advantage of this and plug
James-
in all these go-to deep championship
fantasy
sleepers. Yeah.
blow up. Well, then you're not going to want to go with one of these Buffalo running backs, Carlos Williams or Mike Gillislee.
I like Williams. I think he's going to get the majority of the carries. I don't like Gillespie or Gillislee or I don't know, whatever that dude's name is.
Yeah.
Giuseppe can go himself.
Well, look, he had 4 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown last week at Washington, while Carlos Williams, he didn't really do too much. McCoy, he's definitely out for Week 16. We'll have to see about Week 17. He has a torn MCL, and they're saying he's definitely not out for Week 17. So I don't know what's going on there. But Carlos Williams, he missed most of Week 12. He missed all of Week 13 and all of Week 14. He returned last week. It wasn't a terrible game. I think he had 41 yards on not many carries. But Gillislee, or whatever it is here, he's available in more leagues, so he might be out there, and he might actually be the one to get more carries in his game because he did look a little bit better last week. He's actually scored in each of the past 2 weeks.
Sounds to me that
I just wouldn't play either one, honestly. Not in
Yeah,
a
I'm
playoff
worried.
or championship game. I mean, if you're desperate, you're going to have to go after one of them, but unless you had McCoy and got hurt, I don't know, you shouldn't be that bad off for a running back
if you've made
right
it
now.
this far, I mean, you only got, like, it maxed, what? There's only 2 weeks of the season left. So
Right,
only
but even
2
now, man,
weeks
you're
left
talking
anyway.
about adding
So
someone.
someone probably got hurt then.
Yeah, I mean,
mean,
that could happen to anyone. Or
happened
what
to
if you
me.
have
Or
Chris
John-
Ivory
yeah, John
and you're
Stewart,
like,
he got
oh,
hurt.
now I don't feel like playing Chris Ivory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anything could happen. There's not many good running backs out there. You could definitely make the championship and without any good running backs, to tell you the truth.
I had them. They just all dropped like flies.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
What else we got?
Couple other running backs here. Donald Brown, he's available in about 100% of the leagues. Melvin Gordon, he left last week with a knee injury in the first half against Miami. Donald Brown came in and was the main back on the ground. He got 12 carries for 90 yards, also had 2 receptions for 14 yards. They go up against Oakland this week. Not very good against the run, not very good in the passing game. But Danny Woodhead, like we said before, did blow up against them last time. I'd rather have Woodhead play for sure. But in a deeper league as a flex play, they're going to run a committee approach again this week with Melvin Gordon out.
If I'm in third place and the team I'm playing's in first, I'm ahead of them on waivers, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That means if Parlay's listening, you can't even get any of my players, fool.
How about Jerick McKinnon?
You love this guy.
I do like this
figured
guy.
I thought you'd lead the show with this guy. Is
No.
the thumbnail for this episode going to be him?
You're dead wrong.
You bleed purple.
It's going to be one of these receivers we talk about here.
Peterson's probably going to play, so McKinnon is a scary play, but he's an option if Peterson doesn't. So if it's
That's
later,
pretty much it.
if it's later in the week and you find out he's not going to play and you need somebody to plug in an emergency,
Or if you're in a 12, 14-team league and none of these guys we mentioned are even out there besides Gillislee, and you're not going to get him maybe because the other guy's going to pick him up, and why not pick up Jerick McKinnon and see what happens? If Peterson doesn't play, they're still going to run a committee approach with him and Asiata. But McKinnon last week, 4 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown in the passing game versus Chicago. And they go up against the Giants this week, and we know their defense stinks.
I'm trying to pick up 3 running backs, like I said earlier, man, just because I need to stock up. And I'm dropping Julius Thomas in one of the plays because I'm not playing him this week, and I don't need him next week because I don't have a freaking week next week, no matter what. So sometimes you got to get desperate. For teams who are carrying maybe 2 defenses, drop the one you're not going to play if this is your last week and go ahead and add McKinnon now, and then that way if he does end up playing later in the week, you already got him.
Absolutely. Let's move on to some receivers here. I'm going to start...
Antonio Brown?
Well, if he's out there, yes, definitely go pick up Antonio Brown. But look, I'm going to say definitely go pick up Ted Ginn Jr. as well. He's available in about 40% of the leagues. He has 2 receiving TDs in each of his last 3 games. He has at least 80 yards receiving in each of those games and at least 8 targets in 6 of his last 9 games.
And 15 drops in each one of those games.
It doesn't matter. He's
I
doing
know,
it
just messing
huge.
with it.
I think he has at least 27 fantasy points in each of those 3 games, and he has 27 targets over the last 3 games as well. So he's targeted a ton as well. And he probably wouldn't be targeted as much if he wasn't dropping the ball more because he'd be making those catches and just taking them to the house earlier.
Believe it.
But yeah, if you need a receiver,
Crazy
man, Ted
mofo.
Ginn, he's been doing it big over the past 3 weeks for sure.
Carolina needs this game to wrap up home field advantage too, so they said they're going after it.
How about Kamar Aiken? He's available in 40% of the leagues as well.
Jimmy Santa Clausen's getting this guy the ball.
Yeah, like I said before, it doesn't really matter who is playing quarterback. This guy is their number 1 receiver because they have nothing else. And he was actually one of our situational starters or sleepers last week or something. I don't know. He came up with 8 catches on 12 targets, 128 yards, and a touchdown versus Kansas City. He has 3 touchdowns over the last 5 weeks, 7 or more targets in each of his last 6 games, with at least 10 in 4 of those, and 7 straight double-digit fantasy performances, and actually 10 in his last 11 games. Like I said, he's the number one wide receiver out there. Going up against Pittsburgh this week, they let up the most fantasy points now to wide receivers this season.
A big chunk of his yards last week was on that Hail Mary at the end of the first half.
But he still had 7 catches outside of that,
Right.
So, I mean, that's huge.
Just saying he had a big catch.
Right. Kamar Aiken doing it every week, though. You still have him easy?
Uh-huh. He sat the bench. He got me 30 on the bench last week.
Please believe.
Well,
Holding up that bench.
You know, because I gave Randall Cobb a bone. And,
Didn't work out for
it did
you.
not work
I think,
out.
Well,
so he's
who
on
does
the
Green Bay play this
He's
week?
on the bench now. No, he's on the bench. It doesn't matter who they play.
Oh, well,
He's
it
benched.
does matter to
Nope.
a point, man.
Not matter to me. He's benched.
Kamar Aiken in?
Kamar Aiken's in.
Do it up, man.
He's going to get the go, and he better perform, and then we'll shower him with Gatorade.
How about Rueben Randle this week? He's available in about 65% of the leagues. He has 4 touchdowns over his last 6 games. He has double-digit fantasy performances in 5 of the past 7 weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, 9 receptions for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. ODB is suspended for this game, correct?
Believe it, he's appealing, though.
So Rueben Randle may be the number one guy out there. I mean, they still have Dwayne Harris. He's been off and on throughout the season. He's a return guy as well. Rueben Randle, he'd be the guy I trust in that New York offense, and they're going up against Minnesota. They're pretty good against the pass, but like I said before, their defense not playing quite as well recently. So Eli Manning has been doing it huge on the road this season. So Rueben Randle is a very nice play this week, I have to believe.
You're going to be alone on that one. I don't have no faith in the New York Giants fantasy-wise.
Look what they did last week, man. They
was-
were down 35-7 or some crazy.
It's like an anomaly. It was 1 week. Like I had them guys on my team all year long. Never. They rode the bench. When I did play them, they did nothing for me. They lost me already.
Well, look, I think
'Cause I had
Eli
both those
Manning
dudes
has
earlier.
something like 14 touchdown passes in his last 4 road games, I believe it is.
Eli's beast. They're garbage, so they have to throw, especially late in games.
Well, they've
Mad
been running the
Dogs.
ball well recently, too, over the past couple of weeks, like I said before with Rashad Jennings. How about Willie Snead, available in about 50% of the leagues? He's been Drew Brees' favorite target pretty much this whole season. He's been a little bit inconsistent. He missed some time with an injury, a short period of time. Over the last 2 games, though, 17 receptions on 20 targets, 198 yards, going up against Jacksonville this week. We know their defense isn't that great, but they've been middle of the pack against fantasy wide receivers this season. But Willie Snead, I'd definitely trust him this week.
Is Breeze banged up? I read an article or something that said not that he's going to miss time, that he's just a little beat up, shoulder injury or something. Is it the same one maybe from earlier in the year?
I have no clue, man. I didn't see anything about it. He's going to play in this game. There's no doubt about that. So I'm really not worried about it. Breeze usually finds a way to get his passing yardage.
He just throws it. That's how he finds it.
Please believe they got to throw it a ton because they're a bad team.
Yeah, the Saints are garbage. But Breeze always puts up big points. I mean, what happened to Brandon Cooks? That dude was supposed to be beast this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's not terrible, but he's not as good as where he was drafted.
Glad I didn't draft him.
How about Markus Wheaton?
Oh, yeah. I
How
was going to
about
ask you about this guy. You hate him.
I don't hate him. Never said I hated him before.
You're always hating on him. Before the year, you said he was garbage.
I just said I didn't like him in the slot, and it seemed like for most of the season. I mean, you actually were down on him more than I was at one point in the season, but he's turned it around and played well. He did it big, obviously, in Week 12 at Seattle. He had 9 catches for 201 yards and a touchdown. But since then, in 3 games, he's had at least 50 yards receiving in each game, and he had 2 TDs over that span as well. In total, he had 4 straight double-digit fantasy performances with 37 targets in that span and 3 TDs as well. Going up against Baltimore this week. In Baltimore, they let up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. They just stink against the pass. We obviously know that. They've stunk all season against the pass, and I think we said it before the season that they were going to stink against the pass. But, I mean, Markus Wheaton, he's still the 3rd option in the passing game, so I'd take any of those receivers we mentioned before over him. But Markus Wheaton, not a terrible play in a 12-team league for a flex option.
Yeah, and you never know. I think he's probably on steroids because he was garbage, and all of a sudden, 200-yard
He eats his Wheaties.
beast mode.
They take a few weeks to kick in.
Shots in the ass.
2 other receivers here. Devante Parker from Miami, the rookie. He's still available in about 65% of the leagues. He has 3 double-digit fantasy performances in his last 4 games, 26 targets and 2 touchdowns in that span. And it was all since Rashard Matthews went down. You remember he went down a few weeks ago. They go up against Indy this week, and they've been getting torched recently in the passing game.
Indy?
Indy.
They're garbage.
They are garbage.
That's all you need to know.
Not feeling Devante Parker?
No, man. These dudes, I mean, I understand there's got to be people out there, and like Jonathan Stewart was hurt, so what do I have to do? I got to pick up someone, you know what I mean? When you got wide receiver, you need people like that. But this Miami, nah, they're not getting it done.
Tannehill's
They
better
gave
than
up.
most quarterbacks.
Yeah, but they've given up.
Never given up, especially Devante Parker. He's not giving up, man. He's just a rookie. He needs to
He's
do it
giant.
big here towards the end of the season and show he has some promise for next season.
He just can't wait till the season's over so he can
Smoke some trees.
smoke trees and be on the beach.
Now you're saying this guy's a druggie, huh?
No,
No, he goes to the states where it's legal.
marijuana's decriminalized.
Not drugs when it's legal.
All right, man.
Rocky Mountain High, DGB.
That's why Peyton fell off. Weed
Yeah.
got legalized in Denver, and he's all ripped.
How about another rookie here? Dorial Green Beckham, available in about 75% of the leagues. He had over 100 yards receiving for the second time in 3 weeks last week at New England. He has 45 targets over the last 7 games. Mariota, he went down. He's probably not going to play this week. It's going to be Zach Mettenberger, but he did it with the Zach Mettenberger last week, so he's not a terrible play, but going up against Houston, letting up the 7th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. This would be a guy that really a last-ditch effort to me, but he can come up with the big game. He showed it recently.
He's going to be my deep sleeper this week.
Deep
I
sleeper?
like it.
I have a
feeling it.
feeling it's
Dorial
going to
Green
be a
Beckham.
down week for all fantasy.
It's
These
possible.
matchups are like, I mean, Miami at the Colts. Those 2 teams are garbage. And then we're talking about we're talking about Tennessee with no Mariota against who?
Houston.
Houston.
With no quarterback. They're on their 4th quarterback.
Yeah, like those 2 teams are garbage. Like it's going to be a struggle for these teams to
And
score
the
points.
NFL season is tough, man. Towards
I
the
know.
end of the season, teams
I
are
just-
broken.
I don't see points coming from any of these teams.
Points got to come from somebody.
Yeah. It happens every week,
Boswell.
man. Somebody does it.
Boswell.
Your fantasy lineup might not get points, but you'll look in waivers and you'll see a ton of dudes who put up points somehow.
I'm going to keep track of these guys.
All right, do it up, man. Last week, our situational starters, sleepers, and deep sleepers blew it up, dude.
Because we're beast.
But 2 tight ends finish it off here. Zach Miller from the Chicago Bears. He's available in about 65% of the leagues. He's had double-digit fantasy performances in both games since Martellus Bennett went down. 11 receptions, 142 yards, and a touchdown in that span. He has 4 touchdowns over the past 7 games, and they go up against Tampa Bay this week. They let up the 16th most fantasy points to tight end, so about middle of the pack. But Zach Miller, he's a big part of this passing game in Chicago, so he's not a terrible play.
Yeah, I like that one.
What tight ends do you have?
I like that one a lot.
Oh,
No,
easy.
that's a guy that's going to be able to score points.
Yeah. So will the next guy. I'm telling you, Will Tye from the New York Giants, available in about 90% of the leagues. He's had double-digit fantasy points in 5 straight games now and scored a TD each of the past 2 weeks. Going up against Minnesota this week, they let up the 13th fewest fantasy points to tight ends. But like I said about the Minnesota defense before, they're struggling a little bit. And look, Will Tye, 38 targets over the past 6 games, so he is a big part of this offense right now. And plus, like I said before, ODB is not playing in this game because of a suspension.
That dude needs to get it together. I heard in that game they were threatening each other with baseball bats and using homophobic slurs.
Yeah,
It was getting real.
it was crazy.
If you appeal though, don't you get to play until the appeal's heard, or you don't get how does that go?
They usually try to figure it out before the game starts.
Doubt
But
that
yeah,
would
they'd
happen.
get to play if they didn't.
I wish he'd have got
come
thrown
down
out of
with
that game, because then I would have had a better chance at winning fantasy, and then I also wouldn't have lost my boxes of ZD. No rigatoni this week.
I wish it had got thrown out 2 weeks ago when he blew me up in fantasy.
Believe it. Anything else for him? Any more waiver claims?
No.
That's it.
Any
What-
other questions about your teams?
No, my team's beast.
Well,
Championship bound.
What are you going with, Easy?
What am I-
Give
what-
us your final lineup here.
there's my championship lineup. big old Blake Bortles, Jacksonville, true
Right,
champions, been having right. Martavis Bryant, because he's gonna stay in there. It doesn't
Definitely.
matter. No, I got DeSean Jackson here as my number 2 wide receiver.
Well, what happened to everybody else? You picked him up late in the season, I remember. I told you, or I traded him to you, I think, actually, didn't I?
No, I think you told me to pick him up.
No, I picked him up and gave him to you for Devante
Right,
Adams
right,
because
right.
you picked
We
him up in the wrong league.
Right, we swapped Devante Adams for DeSean Jackson. I think he's going to get the go just because he's going back to Philly, coming off his big game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Craziness out there. Kirk Cousins, your boy, and who knows? David Johnson.
Right.
Because that's all I have.
Well, he's starting for one of the most explosive offenses as well.
Chris Ivory is slated in there right now as my running back number 2.
Garbage.
Jordan Reed, my tight end.
Nice.
He's a solid performer.
Yes, I traded you him as well.
Yes.
I love giving you the Redskins, man.
That was a good trade. I got Kamar Aiken in there as a flex.
I like it.
Delaney Walker in there as a flex.
Yeah, he's been playing well.
And Casey's D.
Casey's D's been doing it as well, yeah, so
Now,
that's not too bad. I'll try to
T.Y.
replace
Hilton
Ivory.
and Randall Cobb on the bench.
T.Y. Hilton on the bench. I guess they are down to their, 8th quarterback now?
And I got
I think
James.
11th. I'm not sure. Maybe 20th.
I got the waiver claim in for the guy from New England. I'll put him in
James
there.
White.
I'll put him in there instead of Ivory.
Not going with Powell, huh?
No, I hate Bilal Powell because I like Chris Ivory.
All
And
right.
he takes away. He don't let Ivory shine. I'm telling you, Bilal Powell. Bilal. That was Martin Lawrence in House Party too. I'm pretty sure.
That was his name?
Or Stinkmouth. No, someone in there was named Bilal. Who the hell was named Bilal?
I can't remember, man. Yeah, I thought Martin Lawrence was like Dragon Breath or something.
Yeah,
Something.
that's what they called him. His name, he might have been Bilal. House Party, one of my favorite movies of all time.
I got Brady, Brandon Marshall, Jeremy Maclin. I'm benching McCoy because he's hurt. Charkandrick West, Delaney Walker, Julio Jones, Tyler Lockett, and Kansas City's defense. But I also got Sammy Watkins on the bench, Des Bryant on the bench. And I'm trying to pick up Christian Michael, Danny Woodhead, and
Blau Pow.
Blau Pow. So one of those guys will probably
Right.
start for McCoy. But I'm projected to win. Oh, actually, I'm projected to lose right now by 3. But that's because McCoy's getting 0 points.
Right.
So once I put somebody in there, I'm
And
projected
who you
to
playing
win.
in that league?
Johnny Parlay.
Johnny Parlay.
Yeah, he was 11-2 this year. I was 10-3.
So we got 4 spread members in 2 different leagues in the championship.
Believe it.
Very nice.
That's
It
because
come
we know
down
what we're
to it.
doing.
Exactly.
He's got a good lineup, though. He got Palmer, Jarvis Landry, Doug Baldwin, Sean Drawn, Denard Robinson, Travis
Sean
Kelce,
Drawn.
A.J.
Winners are
Green,
drawn.
Golden Tate, and New England's defense. He's got Hilton on his bench. Lynch might, he's probably not going to play, but if some miracle this dude plays in a deep league, you might get him next week.
Is there any chance Sproles does anything?
Absolutely,
You're dead
man.
wrong.
I mean, there's always a chance Sproles does something. That's the problem with him, though. When's it going to happen? You just never know. So you don't want to play him in the championship because, yeah, he could put up 30 points. You never know, but he could also put up 0.
James White is going to get more than Darren Sproles.
I would have to believe so, yes.
I
James
hate it.
White has blown up over the past 3 weeks, man. I'm telling you. Tom Brady trusts him. He come out and said it this week. LeGarrette Blount, he's injured. They have Brandon Bolden out there as the other back.
This is the longest waiver claim episode ever.
I seen that.
It's championship week. Simple as that. It's serious.
Fans, any questions, comments, anything you got for us, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com. Keep coming back to YouTube. Click and subscribe. We'll try to answer you ASAP. Get your questions in as soon as possible because we get a lot of them.
Larry Fitz.